Hello, Trucker Todd here again. Recently I did a video about acting like a kindergartner, acting like a 5-year-old might be the best way to handle the coronavirus situation. And I realized when I did that video that I failed to mention a lot of people in that video. I had a friend of mine called me today and he suggested this, and I'd been thinking about it too. And so in this video we're gonna talk about those things. Also, want to remind everybody, I'm gonna have a couple of big announcements coming up really soon, possibly next week. So make sure that you are still subscribed to the channel. Make sure you click that bell notification so that you get notified about future videos. And share this video on your social media platforms. You can also send it as a text to people that you think might enjoy this video. And if there's any way you can, give me a thumbs up. Right under the video, there's a thumbs up. Click that. And even if you absolutely hate this video, give it a thumbs down. That's okay. Like always, if you're wanting to know more about working for Roadrunner, there's going to be a link down below to do an application. You can also email me or leave a comment with any questions you have. I do my best to respond or reply to every comment or email I receive. If something happens and I miss yours, and you hadn't heard back from me, say within a day or so, shoot me another message. I don't intentionally ignore anybody, and I'll try to get to your video. So what I want to talk about today is, everybody's panicking around. Good grief. Everyone is panicking about this coronavirus. And I've said I think it's exaggerated. I think it's blown out of proportion. Ironically enough, I blame social media. And so that's what I think it is. I could definitely give you a few examples of that. But today I found this article, and you'll have to forgive me. This article is 3 weeks old, but it's referring to this very thing. It says, truck drivers, the unsung heroes of the supply chain. Now, I'm going to talk about other heroes besides truck drivers that are really benefiting this country right now. And I'm going to have some comments about that. But let me tell you, this came from supplychaingamechanger.com. And I'm going to put a link to that in the description below too. Feel free to check this article out. I am going to read a lot of this article, but I'm not going to read all of it. And so you guys can go in there, and maybe some things I think are important you might not think are, and maybe some things I've glossed over you might benefit from. So make sure you check this article out, and I'm just going to start on it. Let's get down here. What in the world? I'm going to pause the video. We're having the article disappeared. All right, and like that, I'm back. My tablet's acting up today. It says, anywhere you go in the world, you will find truck drivers delivering goods. Roads and highways are filled with trucks of all shapes and sizes. Tractor trailers of all configurations are everywhere on the roads. If you are driving a car, you may be annoyed by all these trucks. Or if you are an environmentalist, you may be concerned by all the fuel consumption of these behemoths. But in reality, these trucks are the backbone of our societies and our economies. They deliver the goods we need to live the lives we enjoy. Without them, the economy would stop, and life as we know it would not be the same. Truck drivers are truly the unsung heroes of the supply chain. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, it's not to pat myself on the back. Right now, there is drivers, lots of them, everybody that's so concerned about the coronavirus, these guys are choosing to spend time away from their families, out here meeting people, and they don't know who they're meeting, if they've got the coronavirus or what. They're sleeping in small spaces in their trucks. A lot are eating truck stop food, which is horribly unhealthy. Some are going to Walmart and buying groceries at the Walmarts that'll allow them to park there. They're spending weeks, and this article will go into this in a minute, spending weeks at a time away from their families, and making a lot of sacrifices. And a lot of them, as we've seen from Freight Waves, are making $45,000 a year or less for all the sacrifice they make. There's demands on their health. A lot of times the sitting for long hours leads to obesity. It leads to circulation problems in their legs. So there's a lot of sacrifices, and a lot of time there's not a lot of gratitude. I had a lady at a warehouse recently, I'm not going to say what company or where, that was horribly rude to me, and turned out she was in the wrong. She griped me out because she thought she had signed my paperwork, and she had accidentally thrown my paperwork in the trash. That very same day, I went to a company and had a security guard gripe me out because I pulled about 2 feet past a pylon so that the exit of the company would not be blocked. Again, I'm not going to say what companies I was at when this happened, but we take a lot of abuse out here and a lot of mistreatment, and I did get pretty hot with that guy, and I think that situation's resolved now. But anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that. Let's keep going. It is very true that without truck drivers, the world economy would come to a screeching halt. In the USA, over 70% of the goods being transported are being moved by the trucking industry. Now, this is one of the main points I wanted to bring up in this video. I'm hearing them talk about what happens if, the truck stops are already doing takeout for the restaurants. And I heard on the radio this morning they were talking, what happens if the supply chain breaks down to where truckers can't get fuel, they're stuck out here on the road. It was actually on Fox News. They were interviewing some political figure. I don't remember who it was, a senator or a congressman. And he basically said they're going to do their best to try to keep that from happening. And they realize the importance of truck drivers. And he mentioned some other people that I don't think get a lot of credit. There's a lot of police, fire, and medical personnel that are also literally putting their health on and their livelihoods on the line. I mean, we don't know the extent of this virus. Some people, it could make them really sick. Some people don't have any symptoms at all. They had a girl the other day on Fox News that she got the virus, didn't know she had it, and got over it, and it was no big deal to her. And then, of course, we know there's been a few deaths. And so I'm still, to this point, not panicking. I honestly don't think about the coronavirus unless somebody calls me and wants to talk about it. Recently, a company contacted me and said that one of the places that I had been to, they had an employee that might have been exposed, and I wasn't really that concerned about it. I was concerned about my wife because she's had some health issues in the past couple of years, and I didn't want her immune system to be compromised. But after I spoke with that company and they gave me the details, I decided that I've got a better chance of winning the lottery than I do being infected. But even if I did catch it, I mean, I would call my doctor, follow the procedures, self-quarantine myself for a week or two until I knew the extent of it. If I got super sick, I'd go to the hospital. It's not something I think about or panic about. Again, I'm not going to say what company that was either. I'm just going to say that after I spoke with them, I was no longer concerned. I'm not even going to say if I was in a truck when I was in that company. I'm just going to say that I think it's fine. I'm not really concerned about it. But I am concerned about if the supply chain breaks down. I was recently in a cell phone store, well, yesterday, I think, and they were being told that they're not going to be shipped any more phones until this is over. So that's why I bring up supply chain. They were concerned that when they run out of cell phones, they're going to be sitting at the store twiddling their thumbs. And so hopefully this doesn't last long. If what happened to that cell phone store happens to the trucking industry, it goes back to something I said, and I said this back when companies were going out of business. And I guess they still are, and there may be some more as a result of all this. Right now, I'm running my tail off. I'm staying busy. I'm doing good. I'm happy. But everybody needs to have some money put back. I would say a minimum of $300 to $500. That way, if you get stuck anywhere in the country, you can get a hotel for a little while. You can get a rental car. I mean, things like that. Don't be a paycheck to paycheck, I need my advance to get through the week kind of guy, and then something happens and you don't have a plan. Try to be as prepared as you can be. Buy you some groceries. Canned food, it's got a lot of sodium. Hey, I get it. It's not great for you. Hey, I get it. But if you go to a store and it's out of food, at least you got something in the truck to eat. Buy you some ravioli, some SpaghettiOs. Stuff that doesn't spoil quickly, that you can put under the bunk of your truck and take care of yourself in a crisis situation. And so let's keep going. Enough of that rant. It says truck drivers in the USA travel over 430 billion miles a year. Now that's a lot. I personally, I do about 150,000 a year, and I think that's a lot. They move over 10 billion tons of goods per year, and those trucks consume 54 billion gallons of fuel. They expect these, I'm paraphrasing here, they expect these numbers to continue to grow with increased demands on e-commerce and online shopping. So people are buying more and more online. That's not news. We all know that. The brick and mortar stores this past Christmas weren't near as busy as they have been in years past. Most people are buying more online. Your Amazons, your eBays, your things like that. So we won't dwell on that a long time. We'll keep going. It says here, there's a ton of energy spent on planning, forecasting, and supply chain design. But good grief. But too often the movement of goods is relegated to the task of calling a trucking company to pick up and deliver goods with no understanding or appreciation for the people who drive those trucks. Without those truck drivers, the greatest plans will falter. And that's why I brought that story up a minute ago about the lady that was so rude to me, or the security guard, the gate guard, that we got real close to it escalating to a very bad point. And when it settled, he stayed in his security office and didn't come outside because it was about to be go time. Here's something that shouldn't be news to anybody, but I guess it could be. And these jobs are tough jobs. There are a lot of reality TV shows on trucking which provide a small viewing window into these lifestyles. Shows like Ice Road Truckers, for instance, depict the environment that very few people would have the skill, courage, or determined to take on. I just laugh when I see Ice Road Truckers because my uncle calls it Ice Road Cussers. I always get a kick out of that. Being on the road for that amount of time and for those distance for our benefit is also done at the great sacrifice by those truck drivers. They are away from their homes and families for extended periods of time. Now let's talk about accidents. There are also 500,000 accidents in the U.S. per year. Now that's cars, trucks, everything. That is a huge number, but it's actually 1/3 of the percentage of accidents involving cars. and only 16% of those accidents are actually caused by truck drivers. So, of your, let me make sure I read this right. Of the 500,000 accidents, trucking has a third as many accidents. And of the accidents that trucks are involved in, only 16% of those are actually the fault of the driver. So you always think, those dang truck drivers, they're causing accidents. But according to this article, only 16% of them are actually the fault of the driver, which is pretty amazing when you figure most drivers are driving anywhere from 100 to 150,000 miles a year. And for them to only be 16% at fault, that's really pretty incredible when you think about it. Now, it has a diagram here, and if you don't read the article for any other reason, you really ought to see this. It starts off, it says, truck drivers can work up to 70 hours a week. It said that exceeds most American schedules by 30 hours a week, or 1,560 hours a year. Typically, they only make it home 1 to 2 weekends a month, and they often work nights, weekends, and holidays. Of course, we all know truck drivers can drive up to 11 hours a day. It says approximately 650 miles. It depends where you're at in the country. Certain parts of the country, I've been able to do a little over 700 in a day legally. But I think that for the most part, 650 is a rough estimate of what's a fair day's work for most people. Now, this is something that does not affect me, but it does affect some of y'all. 4 additional hours a day can be spent loading and unloading cargo. Now, a lot of guys sit and wait for their cargo to be unloaded, and some unload it. I got a friend that he delivers Chinese food to restaurants, and so I'm sure he has days where he does a lot more than 4 hours a day unloading trucks. I've never asked him, but that's just what I would think that would be reasonable. It says long-haul drivers drive 100 to 110,000 miles a year. It's the equivalent of driving around the world 4 times. Like I said, I think that's a little low. I do usually 140, 150,000 miles a year. So I find that a little low. It says Class B units, or no, the average Class A unit travels more than 43,000 miles a year. That doesn't sound right either. Class A unit would be your big trucks. Class 8 would be your big trucks. I think they do more than 43,000 miles a year. And my number from earlier was wrong. The average truck driver makes $44,500 a year. The average truck driver drives 105,000 miles a year. And the average truck driver is 33 years of age. 86% of the 3.5 million truck drivers in the USA are overweight or obese. Yeah, that's due to poor eating habits, lack of access to healthy foods, lack of exercise. I do some things there, like I was riding a bike till I got this truck. I try to park further out in the parking lot and walk into the truck stop. If I'm at a place getting unloaded, and this doesn't happen very much because I mostly do terminal to terminal drop and hook stuff, but if I'm somewhere getting unloaded and it's taking time, I'll walk around while they're unloading me, try to get some exercise. It says lack of access to care. I'm not sure about that. I go to the doctor regularly. I get checkups. Sedentary lifestyle, that goes back to the circulation issues for sitting long periods of time, and the long work hours. And it's going on and talking about the poor food choices at truck stops. And I've had people ask me before, well, why don't the truck stops start serving healthier food? Well, the short answer is they sell what people buy. If they put salads in there, and they've done that before, and people don't buy them, they're going to quit carrying salads. And so if you want these truck stops to start carrying healthy food, you need to insist on it. Ask them, hey, where's your healthy food? Why don't you have healthy food? And then buy it. If you go to Walmart, buy healthy food. I guarantee you these big truck stops are doing surveys, and if they see their sales are down, they'll figure out why, and they'll see, hey, people are going to Walmart because they can get healthier food. And then you'll start seeing healthier choices. I noticed Hardee's and Carl Jr.'s, which is basically the same company, have a lettuce wrapped hamburger where they take the bun off and use lettuce instead, and they're doing that for low carb reasons. Why? Because people asked for it. If they don't sell a lot of them, that'll go away. So you have to practice what you preach. If you want them to carry healthy food, you have to buy it when it's there. Okay, that's enough of that lecture. It says 1 in 3 truck drivers have sleep apnea. I've said in other videos, I've got it. I can put that machine on and I love it. I can be asleep in a deep sleep within 30 seconds. And I can sleep just as long as you want me to. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. And then it has a lot of trucker slang here. Incidentally, if you've watched a lot of 70s trucking stuff, it's not good to call a trucker a good buddy anymore. It has a totally different connotation now than in what it did in the 70s when Smokey and the Bandit came out. But anyway, let's move on. Now it's going to talk about trucking industry issues. There is a current, ongoing, and increasing driver shortage. As the truck driver workforce ages and more of them retire, there are fewer new recruits to offset the rising demand for trucking. They work long hours, spend a long time away from home, and they don't get paid what they feel they deserve. I think that last thing is the most important. There's not really a truck driver shortage. You will find that the companies that are paying well, especially the private fleets, the Costco's, even some of the Walmarts, that they don't have the turnover near as bad as these mega carriers do. And a lot of the mega carriers are getting sued right now. They want to work the dog out of you, but they don't want to pay you nothing. And I think that's the biggest problem. Recently, a driver that called me told me about a company that, if I said the name, we'd all know who they were, hasn't increased their rates for drivers in over 5 years. Now that should be concerning because cost of living at a normal job is usually 2 to 3% a year. So to keep wages stagnant is basically a pay decrease because your expenses go up, but your pay doesn't go up to match those increases in expenses. So for you new guys that's never driven a truck or that you're considering it, look at the pay, not what they promise you. You're going to make $60,000 a year, but get with an experienced driver that can look at the pay with you and tell you if they're offering you a fair wage or not. I think there's a pay shortage, not a driver shortage. Companies that take care of their drivers tend to have drivers that take care of their companies. You know, it's a two-way street. You both have to take care of each other. Says the conclusion of this article, let's give thanks to those who choose to be truck drivers. Every supply chain is reliant on the movement of goods, yet we often take for granted those that make this transportation possible. We should be very thankful for all that truck drivers do for us. And of course I agree with that. Like I said, I didn't do this for a pat on the back. I also want to remember the firefighters, the policemen, the doctors, the nurses, everybody that's stepping out of their comfort zone and helping people in these trying times. And so I'm going to wrap it up there. Feel free to leave me a comment or shoot me an email. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. Bye-bye.